Today we're going to look at main idea and details on page 6, and we also need the little article that is on page 7 in our booklet. Okay, so main idea and details, and this is in our reading notes. So in our reading notes, we are looking at main idea and details. So main idea and details, as a 5th grader, what we need to know is be able to determine the main idea and supporting details, use the main idea and details to write a clear summary of the text, and then things that are developing, things that you need to be able to do next year, so we're just going to start working on them this year. Determine the central idea of the text and how it is conveyed through relevant details, and write an objective summary without personal opinion or judgment. So the things that we need to know are central message. What is that? That's the big idea of the story. It's overall, what is it saying? An objective. So objective is a multiple meaning word. So there's different ways to mean it, but in this case what we're talking about is a telling that is not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing the facts. So let's say we read something about earthworms and your personal opinion is that earthworms are gross. Your summary shouldn't be, this is a gross article about gross earthworms that are slimy and no one likes them. That's based on feeling, not based on exactly what an earthworm is, what it does, and what would be in the article. So, to find the main idea of a text, you need to find how the details fit together, and the details are just all the small parts, but they come together and tell what the main idea is. So there's more than one graphic organizer that we could organize our thoughts about main idea and detail, but in this way, I kind of like the idea of a hint, where you have all the little details, and these details come together to make the main idea because they're all part of the same thing, but they each have different functions. And another good graphic organizer that's not as cute but very useful would be if you have the main idea at the top and then details underneath it, because those details are supporting what that main idea is. So for this today, we need to start off with looking and reading our article so that we can find the details and the main idea. So on page 7, we have life cycle of a frog. Life cycle of a frog. The life cycle of a frog has many stages. Frogs lay eggs in egg masses, which are clumps of eggs that stick together and float on the surface of the water. Many of the eggs do not make it to maturity. The eggs are coated in jelly-like covering that protects the eggs. The tadpoles start to develop inside the eggs. They grow and eat the jelly until they are big enough to break free from the egg. The tadpole has a body and a tail and live in water. At first, the tadpoles are fragile and hang on to the plants. They will get stronger and begin to swim around. They will develop through metamorphosis. After about 5 weeks, they will grow hind legs and then front legs and become a froglet. The froglet still has a tail. The froglet continues to develop. It is a frog when it has lost the tail and gained a more useful, formed body that can now live on land close to the water. So even though we're focusing on main idea and details, this graphic feature is really useful because it then shows you what's being talked about in the paragraphs. You can then see how a frog forms from an egg into a full-grown frog. So we're going to use this and come back onto page 6 and fill out our graphic organizer. Okay, so now that we read the story, what we're going to do is go through it and start with the details at the beginning. It is important when we're going through an article to keep those details ultimately in the order that we find them in the article. So the first detail that I'm going to start off is to say that frogs lay floating egg masses. And then after they do that, tadpoles develop into eggs until they break free. And I want to pause. So right now you should have your book out, you should be open to page 6, have your pencil in hand, and you should be writing these notes in the same places where I'm writing them. So after the tadpoles develop in the eggs until they break free, tadpoles have a body and tail to swim. They develop through metamorphosis. So we're going through in the details that were in the article. And after that, they turn into froglets with 4 legs and a tail, and they turn into a frog with fully formed legs and tails, which means that the main idea, that entire article, was telling us about the life cycle of a frog has many stages. So the stages are, we start with eggs, move into tadpoles, then the tadpoles develop and they turn into froglets, and froglets turn into a frog, and explaining just enough details about what those things are. So our main idea tells what the whole thing is about, where the details give those different stages and it tells you what are in the different stages. So for right now, main idea and detail, we just wanted to identify them, and those are the notes we're going to take for today.